All right. Now we separate our data by learning goal. Notice that what I've done is I've taken the columns and I've just pasted the columns in Excel. I've added a couple of columns in here, and I've pasted the post column for learning goal 1 beside the pre column for learning goal 1, and post and pre now for learning goal 2 and 3 and 4. Those are all side by side. And now I'm looking down at the bottom, and I can look at the overall achievement. These are the raw scores beside the term overall. An average of 2.06 for the pre-test and an average of 4 for the post-test. And then if you look just below that, you see the percentages. 2.06 is actually 41.25%, and 4 out of 5 is 80%. Now, looking at the overall achievements, what I've done is I've taken all of those numbers and averaged them for all the pre-test. Came up with 2.7, which is a 54.7%. And on the post-test, the students got an average of 4.2 on each one of those, and that is an 84.7%. So the overall increase, we'll look over to the right, is 30%. These are the things that you will need in order to present your information in live text. Bear in mind that live text does not do a good job with taking, or at least as of this recording, does not do a good job with taking in the graphs as you see on the bottom left, the charts. But you will need these things. You will need a data table, you will need a chart, and you'll need a narrative. And the point is this: if you present your information in 3 different ways, you are addressing those people who need to see it in a chart, people who need to hear it, and people who are curious and would like to see the data. Please remember that anytime you're going to present your data, you'll need to have a chart, a table, and a narrative. The narrative, which explains what people are seeing in a chart, should not include your opinion. Please note the verbiage that you see here. The data reveal, that's not I think, it's the data reveal an overall increase in achievement of 30% from 54.7% correct on the pre-test to 84.7% correct on the post-test. That's all there is. It doesn't say this means, or I'm really happy with these results, or wow, I'm a great teacher. It's just the facts. Again, this is looking at just the learning goals. When you report your means by learning goal, the graph, again, is down at the bottom left. You have your data just above it. And then, again, your narrative says, pre- and post-test data reveal the greatest differences in achievement for learning goals 4 and 1, respectively. It is also notable that the class achieved 100% mastery on learning goal 2. For the rest of this narrative, you would explain why you think that was the case, but in reference to the data, you only all you're doing is explaining what people are seeing anyway. Basically, your reader should be able to look at whichever one of these they are most drawn to, and they should get the full information from that. Your graph is self-explanatory. Your data are self-explanatory. And your narrative is self-explanatory. Now, the last parts of the analysis are for you to choose a group of interest. And you notice that when I set my data up, I set it up so that I would have female and male. It could be, you could look at different, well, you could look at female and male. You could look at socioeconomic groups. You could look at any way that students are different from one another that may have expressed itself. There may have been a reasonable or a good reason why you would expect it could have expressed itself. The data could have expressed themselves differently. Then you're going to choose 2 individuals who demonstrated different performance levels. Now, this is where you do need to make sure that you have kept all of your data for all of your students. You're not going to report all of the data for each student individually anywhere in this program. But what you will do is you will find these individuals and you will talk about their strengths and weaknesses. And this is where you'll pull in your formative assessments and your anecdotal information to round out your discussion about the students. So it's going to be important that you have copies, unless you know specifically early on who is going to be or who these 2 individuals will likely be. You'll need to keep copies of all of the formative assessments for each student until you have sort of winnowed out who the people of interest are going to be for this last treatment. Your subgroup analysis, again, here we have the chart, and we have the narrative. Analysis of pre- and post-test data from the TWS revealed that while the girls performed better on the content throughout, the instructional strategies appear to have been more effective with the boys. Note the percent increase was greater for the boys than for the girls. And finally, the individual students for this section, and I spoke about this a minute ago, but for this section, graphic information is fine, but you really don't need it here. Generally speaking, if you just talk your way through and you give some scores, some trends, you talk about some of the more individual characteristics that you believe created the changes, that's going to be fine. Putting in things like graphs or charts not only will, or probably will, become cumbersome, but it will also likely take away from the strength of your narrative because it becomes confusing. So, this is all the information we have for putting together the analysis of student learning. If you have any further questions about this, or for instance, what is expected, what is not expected, then please talk with your instructor, and she or he will be happy to work with you.